choral artisans. It's time for us to embark on our journey as we immerse ourselves into the world of the Jake Runestad piece, Your Soul is Song. I've talked a little bit about this piece in relationship to its meaning, maybe even its newer meaning with what's going on with the pandemic and COVID-19. But as I've been thinking about the text, I've been curious about actually the title, Your Soul is Song. What does that actually mean? And how do we keep it from being I don't know, abstract hallmark sentiment? And begin to understand what Jake Runestad has to say and how his musical composition can bring clarification and help us understand at a deeper level of what has to take place for your soul to be song. How do we translate that? This musical composition is absolutely chock full of meaning in the way that it highlights this particular phrase and this particular perspective, attitude, if you will, of that our soul is song. And it doesn't exist necessarily in a vacuum, but we have to look at context, and I'm just going to spend some time here on maybe the first 4 or 5 pages. So I would encourage you to take out your score and have it with you. You can pause this video and go grab it. And now I want to bring some things to your attention because I believe it's helped me. I believe it will benefit you as well. In Jake Runestad's compositional skill or technique, how he uses pitches, rhythm, all of the different facets of musical data to give us an understanding of what Your Soul is Song means. All right? So first it starts with the introduction and the accompaniment. And I just want to play that for you. I'm not going to play it on my keyboard, but I have a recording and I want you to listen to the first, 12 measures here. Okay? So just take a listen and then I'll point some things out. Okay, we're going to start with actually the beginning of the piece is written in the key of B minor. And B minor is not just some key that Runestad is picking out of the air. He picks the key of B minor for a reason. And the reason actually happens to be, I've made some notes here, is that back in the 1800s, they thought that B minor was this quiet acceptance of fate with a very gentle complaint. All right, that's what B minor is trying to communicate. It sets this mood of coming to the point that my circumstances are not what I want them to be. They're even out of my control. However, I come to terms with this is my new reality. And, but in the midst of this reality, I am able to articulate complaint or lament. All right. And it's also in line with Bach's line in the St. John Passion. And he also, Bach gives us the same musical language in the B minor Mass. So then listen again to the introduction now that you have some information as far as why B minor is important. There's this dissension, a descending kind of into harsh reality. And then I think here comes the gentle complaint. Okay, all right. I think Runestad is stellar in the way that he communicates, sets it right up through the key of B minor, and we hear just kind of this descending, curving in on itself of circumstantial heartache, if you will. Okay? All right. Good. So we then enter into two measures before the women come in. All right? And we actually hear through the women's voices this quiet acceptance of faith. Because as you look at the score, sopranos and altos, measures 13 through 16, the notes are not far apart. There's this kind of stepwise motion, okay? All right? They're very close intervals, meaning that this bruised, wounded acceptance doesn't have the energy to jump all over the place as far as the intervals are concerned. The line is very tight, and you can hear the exhaustion and the weariness through this stepwise motion. All right? So we hear the ladies sing. When the seams burst and the traps ensnare, and your body breaks. Okay? All right, so we hear that complaint, and then the men underneath are sustaining this mood with their descending scale, and it's very interesting because they start with B, which is the tonic, and they just steadily move down the scale, measure 3 on the G, all right? And I think it's interesting here because as Runestad goes down the scale, you would think he would go, but he doesn't do that. He starts with the B, then he goes down to the A, then it goes down to the G, and then on the word breaks, he goes down and he skips to an E. So just the weight that we hear on the word breaks, all right, is very important. Then we turn the page here, all right? And the light flees. Now, it's very interesting the chord, his chord choice for particular on light. All right, so that's the bass. Here's the tenor, alto, and then the soprano. All right, now, very interesting chord. He could choose, right, but light, and then it resolves. The sopranos go from a G, light fleas. All right, so adding that G there, it just finishes the story, and it paints this full picture of, I have nothing left. Hope is gone, light flees. Light flees. We arrive, page 2, third measure in, which is measure 19. And I believe that this is the most important measure of the entire piece. And there's a lot of things that are going on here. This B natural, we begin to see a glimmer of hope, of the journey taking a different direction, if you will. Because the ladies, previously, they have been singing very kind of stepwise. The notes are close together, all right? But then we arrive on, and the light flees. Marlene sets us up with this accompaniment line. Which leads us into sing then. This is the first time that the sopranos, in this particular instance, take a leap. They go from an F sharp and they jump to a B. So as the song has been taking place, as the sounds have been communicating this complaintive angst, if you will, we jump to a higher interval than a second or a third, but it's a fourth. Sing then. So we're beginning to move just slowly from F major, this landscape that's barren and stark and dry, and we're beginning to move and see a glimmer of bloom and of flower, all right? And our spirit begins to take flight, if you will. The sopranos having their part, sing then. Actually could even go higher, sing then. So you don't notice that jump, that it's giving us the capacity to move out of this lethargic funk, if you will, and to leap into giving us the energy to not only to sing the B, sing then, but then up to the D sopranos, sing then. And then we're beginning to move into F major, 4, For then your soul is song. A lot of interesting harmonic stuff that's going on there. If you hear for then your soul, and the basses move down to a D, tenor's still on the B flat, everyone, and the lady is up on the F, is song. Now, what I really like about what Runestad has done is that it's still this journey, gradual unfolding of hope that will take place. Because we would think, for then your soul is song, but we have that suspension, and the altos have that very important F natural. All right, that we hold this for 4 measures straight. Song. All right, there's still some question of the heart, but it's in a better place than it was. Marlene has in her accompaniment, top of page 3, these quick runs. I'm going to play them slowly for you. But with each beat, these 16th note runs of all right, I can't play it as well as she can. All right, but they're running. All right, and with those recurring, we begin to take flight, so to speak. All right, and so please note that those 16th note runs are C, B flat, A, G, F. If you turn the page 4, now we're not at the point where we can jubilantly sing when the seams burst, sing when the traps and snare. Runestad gives us the ooh section, if you will, page 4. So I had just mentioned that Marlene is playing this. And then I love it that the voices in unison, page 4, measure 31, begin to start with the F, and then they go to the G, then the A, then the B flat, and then the C. All right, and I know that the basses and the altos are in a G. So it's the reverse of what Marlene has been giving us. She's been giving us. But then we begin to sing. Sorry. All right? I think that's just a cool part in this particular section. So bringing it all together, what do we know up to this point? We begin to experience maybe a partial understanding of the phrase, your soul is song. All right? So I believe that Jake Runestad shows us that our soul becomes song by, number one, not glossing over the loss. All right? If you go back to the beginning where the ladies are singing, right, and we're in this B minor key. When the seams burst and the traps ensnare and your body breaks. All right? It's recognizing that there has upheaval, that there is a disorientation. What we are experiencing is difficult, and we don't gloss that over. We don't put a spin on it. We accept what has come to us out of our control, circumstances that we don't want to be in, but we can't bypass the pain. We can't bypass the circumstance. All right? And so, B minor also tells us that there's this acceptance of this loss. All right? And it's important to articulate the loss and to name the reality that the seams have burst, traps are ensnaring us, our body is at the point to break. And I love it because even the beginning phrase that the ladies sing, it's not if the seams burst, but it's when the seams burst. Because as humans living on this planet, we will experience suffering, pain, heartache, loss. All right? And we need context. And so we begin to get to receive this context. I mentioned it earlier. Also, the traps and snare, our body breaks. The women are singing very small intervals, stepwise motion. That even though there's this upheaval that has taken place, we're still able to maybe put just one foot in front of the other, right? That we're not stuck. We do name this pain, but we also need to recognize the importance of that the song is still unfolding, right? Even though we don't understand it, the song is still being sung, and so it's just kind of step by step, all right? One foot in front of the other. We're not ready for the leaps with the intervals, right? We're not ready for that higher B natural that comes to us on page 2. But we just acknowledge what's going on. All right? Then we turn the page, and then measure 19. The sing then. All right? In the midst of the trouble, we hold on to the song. And if you're at least able to open your mouth, right? And if you can reach, sopranos in this case, from the F sharp at measure 17 and 18, all right? And if we can allow ourselves open up and jump to the B, all right? Then it not only opens up our voices, but it begins to open up our hearts. And then a B actually then goes to a D. Sing then, sing then. All right? So again, that jump is sing then, sing then. All right, do you see this progression? We're reaching out to the B natural as I begin to sing, which is the word, which is the lyric there. I then am able to reach out to this D. Sing then. And it's not a belting out necessarily, because the dynamic marking is mezzo piano, right? So it's not, Ethel Merman, right? Sing then, but it's Sing then. There's this gradual hearing and responding that the song is beginning to move into, maybe move away from dissonance into a musical word term, consonance. All right? And so the arrival of this new landscape from the desert, or from death to resurrection, if you will. For then your soul is song. Right? It's not a light switch that we turn on. All right, at the hard times. All right, now we're ready to move on to the best part of the song. All right, it's still kind of this, I love this word, I can't get away from it, just the unfolding that's taking place. It's not an immediate magic wand to remove all that's taken place in the past. We see this glimpse of resurrection, if you will. The resurrection with the passage that Marlene is playing. I'm butchering it, right? But you get the idea. And then, friends, I want you to notice at the bottom of page 3, measure 27, Marlene has in her left hand. What does that sound like? It's a glimmer of the melody, the motive on page 6. Sing when the seams burst, but we're hearing it more as kind of just without the full resonance, but just more kind of the square. Sorry. And then it goes. Okay, all right. That's what resurrection, if you will, sounds like. What is our soul becoming song? What does that sound like? Well, we begin to get a glimmer of it. All right? The resurrection, which I believe is this, doesn't come about because of change in your circumstances, but the resurrection first takes place within your own heart. All right? We turn the page and notice we're not ready to immediately burst out in song, right? But we need the ascending pattern of the your soul is song. All right? We arrive, page 2, third measure in, which is measure 19. And I believe that this is the most important measure of the entire piece. And there's a lot of things that are going on here. This be natural, we begin to see a glimmer of hope, of the journey taking a different direction, if you will. Because the ladies, previously, they have been singing very kind of stepwise. The notes are close together, all right? But then we arrive on, and the light flees. Marlene sets us up with this accompaniment line. Which leads us into sing then. This is the first time that the sopranos, in this particular instance, take a leap. They go from an F sharp and they jump to a B. So as the song has been taking place, as the sounds have been communicating this complaintive angst, if you will, we jump to a higher interval than a second or a third, but it's a fourth. Sing then. So we're beginning to move just slowly from F major, this landscape that's barren and stark and dry, and we're beginning to move and see a glimmer of bloom and of flower. All right. Something else that I want to point out in the ascending ooh passage. So that's all in unison. It's ooh, right? It's beginning to tune our hearts. How do we start every rehearsal? Everyone on a unison E natural on ooh, right? In that, we're not ready to sing full forte, full out. We tune our hearts and we tune ourselves to the community, right? That we're not able to sing when the seams burst by ourselves. All by myself. Doesn't work that way, but we need community. So this. Then we move to the lyric or the word your, which we're adding your. And then we have actually some harmony here. So is, and then the bottom of page 5, we are in the key of F. All right. And sopranos on that high F. The altos are an octave below them. Basses have that F as well as the foundation. And then our tenors, you have the C, which adds to kind of just this nice kind of open harmony. All right? And a new reality is taking place. So we've just looked at 5 pages. We're trying to figure out what this phrase, your soul is song, means. What's it about? I just want to point out that the musical composition can infuse meaning, right? That words make up more than their dictionary equivalent, right? Just the help and resource of song, of music, right? To show us reality, right? We need the arts, right? There's some things that my newspaper cannot tell me. There's some things that politicians, doctors, they're not able to just wipe everything away and ta-da, right? But there's a deeper reality, and I think that we're able to have eyes for that deeper reality through music. So 5 pages of Your Soul is Song, analyzing, immersing ourselves. And then in a next video within the next couple of days, we'll continue to think about what the phrase "your soul is song," what that means. All right. Hope this has been helpful. It's been helpful to me. And by recognizing some of these things, that this piece will become more resonate with your experience, where you are. Music is life, and what a gift it is. Okay, see you in a couple of days. Your soul is song.